So guys, finally, the United States has taken move to hold Fulani politicians responsible over the menace caused by Fulani terrorists in Nigeria. We've seen how Fulani leaders, Fulani politicians have been so quiet over the menace, over the consistent attacks by the Fulani terrorists in Nigeria. Now, the United States is taking move to hold them responsible. People like Kwankwaso have been mentioned, and members of Miyetti Allah, which the Sultan, Ribadu, and even Erufai, many of them belong to Miyetti Allah. The United States is about to designate Miyetti Allah as a terrorist organization. Now, let's quickly take a look at this headline. This one here says, U.S. Congress proposes visa ban asset freeze against Kwankwaso, Miyetti Allah, Fulani groups for promoting massacre of Christians in Nigeria. Many Nigerians have welcomed this move, saying this is long overdue, especially the rate at which the northern politicians are so quiet each time these Fulani terrorists, engage in massacring people. None of them come out to raise alarm and even to say it is wrong. Now, this other headline here says, breaking news, U.S. lawmakers unveil bill to tackle Christian persecution in Nigeria. And another headline here says, Christian genocide, U.S. government moved to designate Fulani militias as foreign terrorist organization over religious violence. And also here, this headline also captured it, saying, U.S. Republican lawmakers seek terrorist designation for Fulani militias in new bill. Some Republican lawmakers in the United States House of Representatives have introduced a bill seeking the possible designation of Fulani ethnic militias as a foreign terrorist organization over religious violence in Nigeria. The proposed legislation, titled the Nigeria Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026, was introduced by Rai Moore and co-sponsor by Chris Smith alongside other Republican lawmakers. The bill calls on the U.S. Secretary of State to consider whether Fulani militias should be formally designated as a terrorist organization and to submit annual reports to Congress on efforts to address alleged religious persecution in Nigeria. So guys, this bill has been, long awaited for. Nigerians have been waiting for this bill, and finally we are going to be getting detail on what this bill contains. For now, the Fulani militias and Miyetti Allah, you can see Kwankwaso's name also mentioned there, meaning that some individuals are going to be targeted by the U.S., especially over silence. None of them talk when these Fulani terrorists engage in killing people in the name of taking over people's land. And Sheikh Gumi came out saying that we don't have any option. We have to accommodate them. We must live with them. They are not going anywhere. I mean, with the way that they are so sympathetic with these Fulanis, they just want the killings to go on so that these Fulanis can take over people's land. Many people in the IDP camps, they've deserted their communities. These Fulanis have taken over. They've renamed these communities. They are now the ones living in those communities. You can imagine how that looks, and it is difficult for you to see any of the northern leaders come out to condemn the Fulani terrorists. They don't condemn them, and that tells you a lot. Now, I'm going to allow you to take a look at what this Fulani lady has got to say. She said, don't give power to the Fulanis. If you give them power, they will use it against you. That naturally, Fulanis are good people, but each time they are exposed to power, they start using it to intimidate people who gave them the power. So guys, let me quickly show you how some Nigerians have reacted after Kwankwaso's name was among those mentioned, among those that the U.S. is going to take action against over the terrorist attacks in Nigeria affecting Christians. So the U.S. is targeting all those who are sponsoring terrorism, and the U.S. is going to be sanctioning them. Now, Kwankwaso's name has been mentioned among that. And also, Miyetti Allah Terrör is among it. Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association is also among. And you know that these two groups, many of the Fulani elites belong to these two Fulani groups. It's either Magban or Miyetti Allah Terrör. Even the Sultan of Sokoto is also a member of Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria. So the U.S. sanction is going to affect majority of the Fulani elites. Now, let me show you how many Nigerians have reacted to this. This person here said he will now decamp to APC and be protected there, and even given a post, bookmark this. They say Kwankwaso will soon defect to where he can be protected from being maybe prosecuted or anything. This other person here says, Miyetti Allah is a terrorist organization. It is not a discovery. Malami and Buhari refused to proscribe them. People told Buhari then to proscribe them. Buhari refused because many of the Fulani elites are members of the Magban. And we saw at many occasions, the Fulani Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association members came out to claim responsibility over the killings of people in Nigeria. They came out boldly and had press conference taking responsibility, and all these northern leaders were quiet. Now, this other person reacted saying the government's silence on naming the real perpetrators while groups are publicly implicated shows either political caution or fear of backlash. Many will be exposed soon. As for Kwankwaso, his political career is effectively over, with news like this coming from the US. That is really going to affect Kwankwaso, and you know he's eyeing the presidency. Kwankwaso wants to become a president, and now the US is naming him as one of those sponsoring terrorism, and you know what that means for his political career. Now, this one say they should extend it to Gumi and others in the APC government sponsoring terrorism in Nigeria. You know that the US said they are going to place this ban on Macban and Mieti Allah Katahore. People like El-Rufai them, Sultan of Sokoto, Rabiu Kwankwaso, and many other Fulani elites belong to these groups that the US is targeting. So it's definitely going to get to everybody, honestly. Now, this other person reacted saying, basically, Kwankwaso has been unmasked, and this anthropoid wants to be president of Nigeria. Yes, Kwankwaso is eyeing the presidency. Now, this person said, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso didn't see this one coming. The US lawmakers proposed bill on religious persecution in Nigeria. Now, this is a section of the bill that this person attached here. Let me read out what the bill says. It says, the Department of State and the Department of the Treasury should impose targeted sanctions, including visa ban and asset freezes under the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act on individuals or entities responsible for severe religious freedom violation, or report to the Congress the reasons such sanctions have not been imposed, including, these are the people that are going to be the people who are going to be affected by what the US is doing. Number one group is Fulani ethnic nomad militias in Nigeria. Number two is Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, former Kanu State Governor. Number three is Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN. And the fourth is Mieti Allah Katahore. These are the people the US is going to target. So if you are saying the US should also extend it to Gumi, Gumi falls in these two groups, the two last group, MACBAN and Mieti Allah Katahore. I tell you, many of the Fulani elites belong to these two groups, and the US knows why it decided to mention the group, so that the members of this group will know that the US has already designated them as terrorists. So guys, this is going to be hot on, you know, especially those elites in the north who keep quiet. Each time Christians are being massacred, you don't see them coming out to say enough. They don't come out to caution the Fulanis. They say, what's his name? Gumi said Nigerians should accommodate the Fulanis, that they are not going anywhere. We don't have option. We must accept them. We must live with them, that they cannot go away. They are not going anywhere. Can you imagine that? And that is why the US is targeting MACBAN and Mieti Allah Katahore, because majority of the northern political elites belong to these two groups. I mean, people like El-Rufai them, Rabiu Kwankwaso them, even the Sultan, many of the political and even business elites of the Fulani tribe, they belong to these two groups. And we've seen MACBAN at different occasions coming out to claim responsibility of killing people. They will give reasons that their cows were being roasted or their member was attacked. They will give all kinds of reasons. Now the US is taking this step to suggest to Donald Trump that this is the best step to take. Designate them as terrorist organizations, seize their assets, give them visa ban, they can't come to the US, meaning if their children can never visit the US, if they have any property in the US, it will be seized and they've been designated as terrorist organization. Anywhere you are going to, if you are found to be a member of any of this group, you'll be seen as a terrorist member. So guys, this is the latest coming from the United States, and many people have welcomed it, that is long overdue. Considering what is currently happening in Nigeria, the Fulani terrorists, you know, majestically go into churches, abduct people. Just 2-3 days ago, a reverend father in Kaduna State was picked up in the parish where he serves, you know, in the parish. They picked him up, picked up other 10 persons in the same place, killed 3, and went with them into the bush. Up till now, we've not got any updates. And this is what the US is now suggesting to Donald Trump, that this is the solution. This is part of the solution. It's not as if this is all the solution. Also, you must have heard that the United States has sent 200 troops to Nigeria to train military men on how to fight terrorism. Trump is all out to end the Christian genocide happening in Nigeria. The question is, do we have leaders who are, you know, who are willing to end terrorism? Do we have military men who are not sympathetic with these terrorists? These are some of the questions. Anyway, guys, I'm going to allow you to take a look at this video and let me know your honest reaction in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification for more. Now take a look.
as U.S. Congressmen Riley Moore and Chris Smith have proposed the Nigeria Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026, recommending targeted sanctions, asset freezes, and visa bans against former presidential candidate Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, the Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association, Mieti Allah Kautal Hore, and what they describe as Fulani ethnic nomad militia. The bill alleges that the named individuals and groups are responsible for severe religious freedom violations. Shared by Moore on X earlier today, the document outlines statistics and historical accounts of attacks on Christians and on Muslims who advocate religious tolerance. It cites a lack of prosecutions or convictions of jihadist actors, characterizes this as a failure of the Nigerian government, and calls for coordinated support from France, the UK, and Hungary. The report also urges investigation into cases where non-Muslims are allegedly subjected to Sharia or blasphemy laws, and makes reference to victims including Rhoda Jatau and Deborah Yakubu. Now let's take a look at some tweets coming from the United States X space. Sean Nelson said the powerhouse team of Rep. Chris Smith and Rep. Riley Moore today introduced a new bill on religious freedom in Nigeria, increasing accountability measures, including recommendations for sanctions against Fulani militia and former Kano State Governor Kwankwaso, who introduced Sharia criminal law there. Nakabulu responded and said, well, how much were you paid to target and tarnish Kwankwaso's image? Zamfara State introduced Sharia first in Nigeria as part of their right because it's in the constitution of Nigeria. Christians are safer in Kano State than virtually Christian-dominated states in Nigeria. Well, of course, what we do know is that the first governor to introduce and implement Sharia law was Governor Ahmed Sani Yerima of Zamfara State in January of 2000, with other states following after that. Well, could this be a case of mistaken identity? Although we know that the bill itself, the proposed bill itself, doesn't make reference to Kwankwaso implementing Sharia law, but the commentary around it alludes to that. So it's a very huge development, because there have been several threats about naming people and outing people. And I think, I'm not sure whether people would be surprised that the first name on that list would belong to Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. Dr. Abati, I'll come to you.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you know, the United States has been interested under President Trump, either in his first term or now the second term, in religious persecution in Nigeria. Ditto, the Department of State of the United States, also the Department of Justice, and also now you have the African Command being involved, with President Donald Trump carrying the flag and saying there is religious persecution in Nigeria. The federal government of Nigeria has made, you know, considerable effort in that direction to say that Nigeria is a secular country, and that whereas there is insecurity in the country, there is no such thing as religious persecution. But so that's the background. And now, over the years, Nigerians have been saying, name the persons. Before now, there was an attempt, I think, by the United States and also the United Arab Emirates to say that there are certain Nigerians in government and out of government who are funding terrorism. I think also under the Jonathan administration, there was some debate about the admittance at a senior level that, in fact, there were saboteurs inside the government. Now we have reached an interesting point whereby the United States House of Reps, Representative Chris Smith, I think he's 73 years old, the two oldest persons in the House of Reps in the U.S., you know, he's been there since 1978, representing the 14th District of New Jersey. And then you have Congressman Riley Moore, also now, you know, proposing a bill, and they are now saying that, one, the United States Congress should declare the Katauri, you know, Mieti Allah Katauri, you know, should declare it a terrorist organization, and also Mieti Allah itself, which is the principal, you know, home body, should be declared. And then they have now, in that context, named certain persons. And it is the name of Senator, former Governor Dr. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, flag bearer in the last general elections of the NMPP that has been mentioned. And then Makban, I think Makban, there's a group called Makban. Fulani ethnic nomads have also been named. Well, this matter has to go before the Congress, and they've indicated penalties that such persons will be declared as terrorists. Such persons will not be allowed to go anywhere near the United States of America. So it's a developing story. The matter will still go to Congress. It will be debated. But what you can say is that with the involvement of both Congressman Chris Smith and Riley Moore, this may be an outcome of the various visitations to Nigeria and the interactions with the Nigerian authorities. But we on our own at this table cannot reach a conclusion and say, oh, these persons, these groups, have been so properly identified. So there will be also negotiations, discussions at the binational level.
Absolutely. Ayo, your take on this
Okay, so
very
this
important
is a huge story. And it's come up from, there's a journey towards this point. Starting off, of course, very significantly, amongst the other things that have happened, that infamous post by President Donald Trump, which then triggered a chain of reaction. Obviously, from the Nigerian end, efforts that have been made to convince the U.S. government that there's no Christian genocide happening has not seemed to yield much fruit, because the conclusion of this bill is that there is Christian genocide happening. In fact, before we talk about the main thrust of the story, which is the naming of some of the people they've identified to institute the Magnitsky Agreement Act, which includes asset freezing. It's not just visa bans, it's also asset freezing, and also this would have an implication for them beyond the United States of America. In fact, in this bill, some of their partners are mentioned, the United Kingdom, as well as others are mentioned, and they might, France,
Hungary.
Some of them might also decide to take on the same action. But I think beyond that is how detailed the report's about 12-page bill. The preamble was to give details to the extent of the investigation that they did, including the congressional hearing, the fact that both Christian and moderate Muslims have been killed, the fact that some of them who opposed these things were targeted, were kidnapped, and were killed. So a lot of detail in the work that they did, and then the conclusion around what ought to be done, including the naming of these people. All through this journey, let me call it that, what I've been insistent on is that I wish that Nigeria took the lead on this, because it is quite sad that we're now referring to or depending on the United States to tell us what is happening in our country and what ought to be done. I want to almost say the audacity of one sovereign to interfere in in fact, what they've cited as an example is that it's a threat to U.S. national security, and that's why they've taken an interest in this matter. But it should be more of an interest for Nigerians. But I think we can't even begin to decide whether or not there's Christian genocide in the first place before we decide to begin to take action in that regard. So that's my first point. The second point then I would then talk about would be what would be the implication of this naming of these individuals, of these people. I agree with Dr. Bati not to jump the gun, because I would like to understand the reasoning behind, because they didn't actually give a clear reason why he in particular was identified. And I'm glad that you drew in the Sharia law, because they mentioned it in this bill, that the Sharia law, blasphemy law was part of the discrimination against Christians and some people living in this area. So a few things around there. There are nuances, there are contexts that were not contained in this particular bill. But most importantly, what I'm calling for the Nigerian government at this point, can we take a lead on this? If there are indeed people who are killed because of their faith, can we do something about it? Can our senators, and this is where we call the National Assembly, can they do something about it? Their counterparts in the US have gone ahead to present their own report and made recommendations, and a bill has been passed. Can we do something about it back home? And finally, I'll rest on this point that, most importantly, can we now, they've accused, one of the charges brought against Malami is the fact that he didn't do anything about the list that was brought before him, and making that renewed call, that can we also identify the terrorist financiers or supporters or backers in Nigeria and do something about it? Exactly. That's what I would say.
And it's sparking another conversation that we had in the beginning, which is that, is the Nigerian government collaborating with the United States as equals, or are we cooperating, meaning there's some form of coercion happening for us to sort of, agree to the terms that are being set out? Because it does seem like the United States is taking the lead. And the Pentagon, in a related development, the Pentagon is sending about 200 troops to Nigeria in the coming weeks to help train its military to fight Islamist militants. This is weeks after President Trump criticized the country for failing to shield Christians from terrorist attacks. Now, this is according to a U.S. official who spoke on Tuesday. The troops will augment the small team of U.S. forces. You remember we'd spoken about the small team who have been in the West African nation for weeks, assisting local soldiers with identifying potential terrorist targets for strikes using American and Nigerian intelligence. This is what the official said, who spoke on the condition of anonymity and was discussing operational matters. The new troops, whose impending deployment was reported by the Wall Street Journal, will be assigned to locations across the country to provide troop training and technical expertise. The U.S. troops, it is reiterated, will not be involved in combat operations. This is according to the official who spoke on this matter. An exclusive that was released by Wall Street Journal, of course, has now been widely circulated. But, Rufai, just to put these issues together, now we're seeing names, there are lists. Some people are arguing that, why are we nitpicking this one name on the list when there's several governors? If it's about Sharia law, there's several governors who implemented it. If that's the context, what is the context? Give us the detail and give us your evidence as well.
A lot of things have gone awry in Nigeria, and we remember the conversations around Sharia law sprung up, in the early 2000s. And we knew there were going to be a lot of blowbacks, and we're beginning to see the blowbacks now today. So it's not today that we've been talking about this. For what it's worth, those that say, there should be Sharia law in parts of this country, if we also now make the argument that can we also have canon laws in some parts of the country, they will say no, straight away. So we should be careful. Ayo, you asked a very fundamental question. Why can't Nigeria take the lead on it? Because the Nigerian state cannot handle the complicity in this matter. Pure and simple. There's complicity. President Jonathan said it. Dr. Abati, no I lie. President Jonathan said it this time about complicity in the fight against insecurity. This government has also said it. To a large extent, we've not been able to handle the complicity. Till today, we've not answered questions around, number one, Vimbai. Who ordered the military to leave 30 minutes before the KB girls were picked up? Look at the case in Kwara. We talked about complicity. When they forwarded the report that these criminals are coming to the security authorities, who informed the criminals that made them get angry and come quickly? Complicity. Secondly, it's because of that complicity too, that after the UAE released that list of terrorist financiers, the government can't go after them. So if you have a case of complicity, America will come and write your narrative for you. That's what's happening. It's not that we can't solve the problem of insecurity, but we are not bold enough to solve the problem of complicity. I mean, this was the same country that fought Mitisani in the 80s. So we are not bold enough to fight the complicity that has gone into every single architecture. That's why Americans are taking the lead. And you can never be equals with America. Vimbai, American defense budget is over $800 billion. That's 4 times our national GDP.
US President Donald Trump has also criticized Nigeria's government for failing to protect Christians, although the Nigerian government denies these claims, stating that the security challenges affect citizens of all faiths. We still have in the studio here with us Barrister Adams Atta. Thanks for staying with us.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be joined virtually in the course of the program by other guests. So let me stay with you, Barrister Atta. Since after the December 25th bomb in Sokoto State, we have seen terrorists double down. In Kaduna, 170 people abducted and released in bits and pieces. In Kwara State last week, in cold blood, 178 people were killed. We are going back to Kaduna again, 13 people killed. Now, since after the abduction of the over 170 people, 6 people were killed before. Now we heard 13 people killed. Catholic priest, his residence invaded, abducted, and 3 people in that residence killed, and within the community, other people killed. Are you able to help us offer an explanation, if you understand, why these people just doubled down after the incident? What are they telling Nigerians? What are they telling United States? Meanwhile, we understand that United States military, they are here, but we are told that they are here to offer logistics and intelligence, not boots on ground, by the way. So are you able to help us explain all of this the way you understand it?
Yes, my little understanding is that it is a duty of the government to ensure that life and properties are well protected. That is what the Constitution envisages. But however, the reverse is the case. They are more interested in protecting themselves. We see VIPs attached with series of numbers of policemen, army men, armed personnel, and then all over the Federation. Even when Mr. President came out last time and then directed the concerned office to withdraw all the personnel from the VIPs, you see that we are lacking behind. Recently, last year, I saw a news that they want to recruit more policemen and then more force. Up to date, I don't think that that recruitment is done. That's number one. We lack more personnel and we lack more, intelligent units. So more importantly, that the US government is involved. I want them to take charge in full, 10 over 10, 100%. Let them not give fora to the Nigerian, security outfits. They can support, but let them be in charge. Let the US government, because the Nigerian army and then the Nigerian police have failed us woefully.
Now, when you say that they have failed us woefully, is it because they are overwhelmed? Because I heard you talk about recruitment of more men into the forces. Does it look like the present crop of officers that we have, men and officers, are they overwhelmed? Because we also hear from some of the sources within the military, whenever we try to, engage and take out these people, we have orders asking us to pull back and all of that. So is it a question of numbers or is it a question of intentionality in fighting this war on terror?
I think the intention to come out full in support is not there. And I have this impression that the government is equally involved. That is why we're not getting results. But however, like I said, and I'm saying it again and I will say it, I think the United States needs to take full charge. Don't give them that benefit. Yes, okay, because nobody celebrates failure all over the world. I don't celebrate failure. If you have tried once, 2, 3, and 4, but not even up to the 10th time, and then you continue to fail, I think somebody who can do it better should step up and then do the needful, not the... This is life and properties we're talking about. Okay. It is he that is alive that the government is going to govern. It is he that is alive that is going to pay tax. It is he that is alive that can make decisions. It is he that is alive that can even participate in election that will usher in most of our leaders. So it must be given priority over every other thing. If I'm not alive, you cannot be talking about tax law. If I'm not alive, you can't be benefiting from
the first duty of government is to protect lives and properties. Now, in the course of this intervention, you said something that I would like for us to expand. You said that government is involved. How?
Because, like I always say that, and I will say that, and I want to say it again that. Let me quote the statement of our then military head of state, Sani Abacha. He said, "Once an insurgency exceeds 24 hours, know that the government is involved." And we have seen severally that, I think a recent killing sometime last year, where one of the personnel came out and said that they were authorized to pull out. And then after pulling out, that was when about 2 or 1 hour thereabout, that was when the terrorists now came and then hit. So my point is very certain. You can see from the antecedent, you can see from all angles that the government have failed woefully in protecting life and properties. And that is why you see that some the people like General Hussein thereabout, they are saying that Nigerians should, should start having access to weapons, bear arms and all those things. But however, I'm not in support of that, because even in the United States, that they are bearing arms, they cannot even manage that situation. How much of where a country that we have a tribal color and then
much ethnic society.
Yes, and then tribalism is there, religion is there. You like me, I don't like you. This and that, all those personal factors you need to look
Okay, we'll come. All right, thank you very much, Barrister Atam. We will come back to you in the course of this discussion because we have more talking points that you raised to interrogate. Let's quickly run to Professor Emmanuel Odwe Usue, a professor of Old Testament Studies, Benue State University, Makurdi, Nigeria, who joined us virtually. Good morning to you, Professor, and thanks for joining us on VOP this morning.
Thank you very much.
Okay, beautiful. Good to have you, Prof. The connectivity is very clear, and I'm happy we can hear you loud and clear. Now, let's beautiful. Let's get into it. Prof, you are in Benue State. I'd like for you to bring us, up to the minute. Give us an update. What is happening in Benue State? We hear that some communities in Benue were attacked recently. Is that correct?
It's correct. In Kwande local government area of Benue State, and Kwande is neighboring with Cameroon, and there are several attacks in Kwande. It's not just one incident. There are a couple of incidences of the attack in Kwande local government. And for your information, this is where illegal mining activities are taking place. And I suppose the government is fully aware of this. But the communities, the indigenous people are being killed, displaced in their ancestral lands. Fulanis and the Chinese are there, and they are carrying on with their own activities. And so it is taking place in Benue State. The Kwande local government is bounded with the Cameroon. It is a mountainous area, and it's a very good place for mineral resources, including gold and other resources.
Quite interesting.
And then apart from that, in Ukum local government area of Benue State, which is also neighboring to Taraba, Takum to be specific, in Taraba states, there are series of killings there. In fact, recently, a list of more than 70 people were killed by terrorists. I'm talking about within the last 1 week. I'm not saying 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We're talking about the last 1 week.
That's a very serious matter.
But it has not made any newspaper headline.
Okay.
Why? Because as my other friend who had just spoken said, there's a strong suspicion, or allegedly, government is also part and parcel of.
All right, Prof. Before we get to the involvement of government in all of this, you said that in Kwande local government area, mining activities, are going on between the Fulani people and the Chinese. Now, is this a new perspective to this case of insecurity? Because before now, the impression we have is that, well, these Fulani people, the headsmen, are up for land grabbing. Looks like the situation is changing, where they have to kill people, just to put fear into them and keep on with their mining activities with the Chinese people. So, is there some kind of change, in the mission of these people from land grabbing to doing business? Talk about mining. Which one will it be for you?
Well, it is, first of all, you need to have a geographical space. So their major agenda is to grab the land first. And then when you grab the land, you move ahead to make use of the land in the way and manner you want to do so. In this case, mineral resources are there. So when these criminals grab the land, they make use of it. They get interest from it. The Chinese are there. They are collaborators in one way or the other. Remember recently, about a month or less ago, when U.S. was contemplating on invading Nigeria and dealing with these criminal activities, the Chinese government said U.S. should not meddle in the affairs of an independent nation. This is what the Chinese government said. Why would they say so when their own citizens are here doing business, both black and white businesses, and then they are telling us that stay away from here? This is somebody reasoning properly. There should be a connection between what the president or the president of China said against the United States and what is happening here in Nigeria.
But it's a deep revelation that you've made here, in bringing China and basically the government, of Nigeria using Fulani terrorists, as it were, or headers, as it were, into this conversation. How much facts do you have to back this up?
What the president of China said is in a public domain. It wasn't.
I'm not talking about the statement from the president of China. I'm talking about the facts.
Second, listen. The Chinese are.
Oh well, Benue State seems to be one of the 9 states that do not have a good network.
Yeah,
the network.
We've seen them. They are moving here. One of my sibling brother, the youngest one in our family, was hit by this company vehicle of the Chinese here in Benue State.
He was
the matter is still within the police.
Is he alive?
I know what I'm talking.
Is he alive? He was run over by the vehicle.
Yes, of this company that are extracting illegal minings in Benue State. And they happen to run away. Up till now, we are still trying to bring this company to justice. So what we are saying is not a matter of whether it exists or it doesn't.
The company vehicle ran over a relative of yours.
Yes, but one of the things that is very unfortunate is the denial of our government. And those who are supposed to speak on these issues, they are denying these issues. So that is one of the issues that worries some of us. Because if you really want to address a problem, you first of all acknowledge the existence of that problem. And then you begin to look at possible causes of the problem. And then you profile solutions. This is the way to go. But living in denial that the problem exists in the first place shows that the person is not prepared to address the problem.
All right then, Prof. We'll come back to you shortly. Let me go to Dr. Dixon Osagie. No, just stay with us, please. Dr. Dixon Osagie, he's an international certified anti-terrorism specialist, global security analyst. He was with the Nigerian Army and also runs his own security outfit as the Breeze Protection. Now, Dr. Osagie, good morning to you. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. Good morning.
I understand you've been following the conversation, and talking about insecurity. I know we've had you here quite a number of times. We've talked about these things, but we know that in Benue State there is a local security outfit. I think they call them the Benue State Civil Protection Guards, and they're given Dane guns. That's what they've been given. Some of them actually have Dane guns. Others have machetes, and they are to protect residents against those with AK-47 rifles and the rest. Is this deliberate? Do you think it's deliberate by the government or some organization? Go ahead.
I think that's a suicide mission. It's a suicide mission. For you to face these deadly criminals with cutlasses and local weapons is a suicide mission, and I will not advise any of the people of Benue State to tread on the part of that suicide mission. It's a deliberate error and also a wrong approach in curtailing this crime. Like the last speaker already said, every problem starts with identification of that problem, then having identified the problem and the proper solution. So for me, I think it's a suicide mission, and that's a wrong notion and wrong way to go. So for me, the government of Benue State should start looking at carrying out an assessment of the entire situation of Benue State. Look at the crime-prone areas where this threat is coming from, like the mining sites, and also ensure that they project reasonably security forces. And I'm very sure the Nigerian government is aware of what's happening there. And the reason why reasonable security forces have not been projected there is a surprising situation to me. We are ready to take out. Let's take them out. This joke has been taken so far, and that is why the President of the United States, President Donald Trump, tweeted and said Nigeria is a country of particular concern. All
right, if you want to go by the statement made by Professor Emmanuel Usie on the program there, where he talked about some terrorist group working with some nationals, some Chinese nationals, mining resources in that area, the areas where Kwande local government and some other areas where you have these killings take place. And we also have American boots on the ground. And of course, we understand that the Americans that have come to Nigeria, the boots on the ground, cannot work without cooperation from Nigeria's security agencies. Do you think this will lead to a stop in the level of insecurity that we are seeing, or maybe a reduction in it? America's involvement.
The United States is a country of interest from some criminal gangs and some terrorist sponsored nation, and I think that the United States coming on ground will help and mitigate the situation. But this is going to be a very long-lasting war if they are to engage this criminal element. We understand what happened in Afghanistan. They spent 20 years in Afghanistan. Terrorism is an ideological driven mentality and driven war. And I tell you that if we are ready to take out these guys, I don't think the United States of America should have been on ground, because we have the capability, we have the capacity, and we have the will to take out these guys. But I don't think we are doing so well enough as a country, because you can't imagine, my brother, the Nigerian Army, Navy, Air Force, and the Nigerian police and other security parastatals engaging this group of organized criminal gangs. Then that tells you that it's becoming a state-sponsored crime. It's an organized crime, and we need to know what is sponsored, because it's impossible for you to have.
So if it is a state-sponsored crime, the question I'm asking is, if it is state-sponsored, will the coming of American soldiers make any difference?
Yes, it will make a difference. One, in the area of intelligence gathering, and secondly, in the area of eliminating the threat, because whatever poses threat to human life, the role of contention, the role of engagement is eliminate such threats. But here in Nigeria, we don't eliminate threats that poses dangerous risk to human lives. All we do is that we romance the threats, we negotiate with the threats, bandit negotiation, for example, and terrorism negotiation with the killers of our officers and men. So for me, the Americans on ground will mitigate it a little bit, but it's going to drag for a long time if the government hands is involved. But if the government is not involved, then they're going to succeed. But my brother, it's sad to have the Americans on ground when we have brave officers and men in the Nigerian army. But it's so sad that the Nigerian military has been politicized, and that's why they are not getting it right to take out these criminal gangs. They are not up to 1% of the population of Benue State, the people that are committing this crime. So what's the big deal in taking them out? So that means some people are benefiting from this mining, and they don't want the war to end. Okay, now if you say it's embarrassing to have American government on ground, would it be better if there's some mercenary, if some mercenaries were brought in, like we had sometime in the past in Nigeria, where some individuals were brought in by the government, of course, to help deplete terrorist forces in Nigeria? Would it be better? And if mercenaries would be needed, do you have them at the Breach Protection Services Limited? Do you have the numbers? Do you have men with the experience that are not in service but can, do this thing and protect the people if government contracts them? All right, thank you very much. The Breach Protection Services is a private security company licensed by the federal government of this great country. Private security companies have over 7 million personnel, average of 7 million personnel nationwide. And if the government start looking at integrating private security industry into a security design, they're going to do a lot in the area of intelligence and also in the area of response.
Oh, so we shouldn't be talking about losing forces. Then we shouldn't be talking about not having enough men on ground. If you have about 7 million for your own security outfit alone.
No, not my security outfit. I'm talking about the entire private security outfit in Nigeria.
Oh, the entire private security outfit, 7 million.
Yeah. About 1,000 of private security company in Nigeria. Like here in London, we have private security companies supplementing the effort of the police. In America, you have the private security company supplementing the efforts of the police. But the truth is, when it comes to security management, it's not all about personnel. There are 3 factors responsible when it comes to security personnel. We have the human factor, we have the technological factor, and we have the processes. These 3 components come together to, give an effective security management. The whole essence of technology is to reduce the loss of man, the loss of lives. That's why technology is being introduced into the battlefield. I tell you, 10 to 30 soldiers, 10 to 30 American soldiers can wipe out the situation in Benue State. All you need to do is to send in drones to the threat location and carry out a hostile surveillance within that threat location, and also ascertain their strength, their numbers, then send in fighters to go and clean them up. But yeah, we keep on putting our soldiers and officers and policemen, in line of risk to go after these guys, and that's why we are losing a lot of officers and men. And it's so sad we have them train so hard and dying cheaply.
All right, Doctor. If in Nigeria, the security on ground is very, very peculiar. If we have situations whereby these bandits, these armed men, operate for hours unchallenged and they abduct people in the process, and then you hear cases where you hear news that security operatives now come in 10 hours after. As a former soldier, where do you think that this break, in doing the right thing, where do you think it comes in? Is that at the point of intelligence, intervention, or does this still boil down to complicity within the military?
Fantastic question. You see, when it comes to security management, and that's why sometimes I've quoted the national security strategy. I think that is just a paper. I don't think it addresses the imminent trend devouring the Nigerian people. When it comes to security management, looking at the response measures, we have the preventive measures. Sometimes you say prevention is better than cure. We have the preventive measures, measures put in place to ensure that these criminals do not exploit the vulnerability of the Nigerian people. Then we have the proactive measures, and these proactive measures is put in place to ensure that you manage any given threat or anything that poses threat to human life before it occurs. Then you have the response, reactive measures. Reactive measures is after the failure of proactive measures and preventive measures. And yet these 3 measures fail. The preventive measures fail, the proactive measures fail, and reactive measures fail. That is why you have our officers and men responding after the commission of crime. Each time you respond after the commission of crime, security has been defeated. So for me, it's an absence of intelligence, because for these criminal guys to organize themselves and carry out a strike without the knowledge of the Nigerian police or the Nigerian military, and they successfully executed that strike, it's a failure of intelligence, and it's also a failure on the national security strategy in the area of red.
All right, Dr. Osanye, let me stay with you. I'm happy that you talked about national security strategy. Do we actually have one in Nigeria? Are you aware if we have one? And what does it speak to?
Yeah, we have one national security strategy. I think.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was launched by the late president of Nigeria, General Muhammadu Buhari. That's about 4 years ago. The national security strategy is a book. In security management, we call it the life book, just like a Bible. It's the book that governs the entire state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Identifying threats and also how to respond to such threats. And that book is supposed to be reviewed every 3 years. Any national security strategy that is not being reviewed after 3 years, the reason why it should be reviewed is to look at what's happening in Benue State, for example, and check where the Nigerian government failed. Then, after ascertaining where their failure is, then you review the book and also, profile, another strategy in
constant review. Okay, now I will assume that the national security strategy is overseen by the National Security Advisor. Am I correct?
You are very, very good.
Okay, beautiful. I asked the question in light of the fact that saw the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. A few people were caught in Kwara State, Mieti Allah men, and with guns and equipment, And when they were asked, they said they were armed by the NSA to help the NSA fight insecurity in that area. So how do we balance all of that? Someone in charge of our strategy is arming people, people that are suspected to be the cause of the problem and misarming them to fight the problem itself. Does it work where you live? Does it work that way in the UK where you live?
That's a technical error, an operational error, and also an abuse on security management. For me, I heard about the story, and the reason why the Nigerian government have not set a board of inquiry to investigate this report is also disturbing, and that is why most times we see Nigeria as a country of particular concern. Because things like this happening in Nigeria is not acceptable in any global community. It's a disturbing situation that allegation is coming against our NSA. But for me, I think there should be an holistic investigation into this incident. We don't know the reason why he did that, but from my own public perspective, I'm not aware if that is a strategy or if those guys are capable than our military. If he does that,
all right.
I think it's an abuse on our military system.
All right, Doctor. I'm not sure if you did listen to the professor when he spoke earlier and trying to make sense of the topography of Kwande, where the heinous attacks happened recently. From his explanation, he said it's mountainous and it also shares a border with Cameroon. From your military experience, what do you think about such topographies? Do you think, also looking at the peculiarity of Nigeria's security intervention and all of that, do you think that the topography of such areas might make it difficult for military intervention to come in early, or even maybe surveillance or even intelligence? What do you think in this regard?
But if any human being can find them, if these criminals can find their way to that environment, then the military also can find their way to that environment, because these guys didn't go there by air, neither did they went there by sea. They advanced towards that location by land and also got there safely. So the military has the capability and capacity to carry out hostile surveillance within that given environment, with that threat perception area, and ensure that they dispatch reasonably security forces to curtail such crime in progress or such criminal gangs. For me, I'm still finding it very difficult to comprehend the reason why Nigerians have been failed. Because one of your colleagues in the studio says that the government has failed the Nigerian people. I go in line with that thought, because truly the government has failed the Nigerian people, because when it comes to security, is the topmost priority of any given government. If the government cannot protect cannot protect its people, then it has failed its people in its given priority to protect.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Osaje. Let's quickly go back to Professor Emmanuel Usue. Professor, now,
thank you.
Obviously, it seems like the people are by themselves and they have to fend for themselves, as it were. What are the people doing to protect themselves, or are they sitting back and waiting on government to come protect them?
There is very pathetic, because the communities that have been affected, they do not have the capacity to face these terrorists. They do not have the sophistication of their weapons to be able to face these terrorists. And so some have relocated to camps, or can I say IDP camps. Some have relocated to their families in some other villages or towns, and so it's a very difficult situation.
So basically, you're saying the people are now leaving their land just to stay alive. They are leaving their land. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they have left their land because the Fulanis are taken over. The terrorists have taken over the communities, and so they cannot stay there. If you stay there, you'll be dead. That's it. And let me be very sincere with you. Our government, both state and federal government, they are not serious. Why am I saying so? These incidents have happened over and over and over. And when you say the government has intelligence, I want to question that kind of intelligence. Intelligence to do what? If you look at the West, when an issue happens, analyses are made, intelligence information is gathered in order to address so that a similar situation won't happen again. Here in Nigeria, an incident happened over more than 20 times, and yet no reasonable solution is proffered. So what I'm trying to say is that I am aligning with the thinking that the government of Nigeria is part and parcel of our problem. Look at the issue of sponsors. Why is it that it is very difficult to arrest these sponsors? Because the government knows them, information has been given to the government. Why is it that it's so difficult to arrest and bring these sponsors to justice so that the source of this or the causes of this terrorism will reduce drastically in Nigeria?
So guys, let me quickly show you how Nigerians have reacted after Kwankwaso was mentioned among those who are going to be sanctioned by the U.S. government. Now, let's see reactions coming from Nigerians. The headline says, U.S. Congress approves visa ban, asset freeze against Kwankwaso, Mieti Allah, Fulani groups for promoting massacre of Christians in Nigeria. Kwankwaso is there boldly. Hey, hey. They are the ones, and he wants to become president. Kwankwaso wants to become president. And this person, basically, Kwankwaso has been unmasked. And this anthropod wants to be president. He calls him anthropod. And this other person said, they should extend it to Gumi and others in APC government sponsoring terrorism. Hey, Mieti Allah designation as terrorist is long overdue. And then this person said, so Kwankwaso is among northerners sponsoring Fulani terrorists. And this person said, the government is silent on naming the real people perpetrating while groups are publicly implicated. Shows, while groups are publicly implicated shows either political caution or fear of backlash. Many will be exposed soon. As for Kwankwaso, his political career is effectively over with news like this coming from the US. Hey, Jehovah. And this one says, since our lawmakers wouldn't do their job, let lawmaker in a foreign land is doing their job for them. At this point, I'm wondering why they still pay their salaries. As I see them do every day, is shout, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, and nothing comes out of it. There is no other man called, there is another man called Bashar Ahmad, though nothing concerned that one with traveling to US. Mieti Allah is a terrorist organization. It is not a discovery. Malame and Buhari refused to proscribe them. People asked Buhari to prescribe Mieti Allah, he refused. Now the US is doing it for them. And now this other person here said, I believe US Congress has more than the Nigerian government. More than the Nigerian government. I believe the U.S. Congress more than the Nigerian government. We all know that this government is complicit in fighting, exposing, and failing to jail or terrorist sponsors. Failing, jailing terrorist sponsors, their financiers and supporters. If you are building a house, this kind of foundation material and workers are this. If you are building a house, the kind of material, foundation and workers at it. Maybe he's trying to say the kind of materials you use are very important. This person says Tinubu and APC are afraid of Obi Kwankwaso ticket. And also want to use this news to distract Nigerians from ongoing disaffection with the controversial electoral law. Keep your conscience awoken. And this person here says ADC coalition, Peter Obi, Kwankwaso article, just to note, you that Peter Obi, Kwankwaso presidential ticket will be a serious bad market. Redesign it again for better alignment. This person is saying that just note that the Peter Obi, Kwankwaso presidential ticket will be a bad market. Redesign it again for better alignment. So guys, it is going to cost Kwankwaso his political career. None of them speak against Christian genocide in Nigeria. None of the elites, those of them in government, military, nobody Talks comes out to speak against them. So guys, this is a 9 billion naira lobby money just doing his job. Well, except David Hunde and other credible investigators affirm this. I no longer trust the American anymore. What about MC Oluomo, Lagos Talks, Oru Festival on election eve, and others in Lagos who were supported by Tinubu and Sawulu to openly assault voters in democratic process? So guys, this is a visa ban as if their travel is not limited to Islamic countries only, Saudi Arabia or UAE or Qatar. Visa ban as if their travel is not limited to Islamic countries only, Saudi Arabia, okay? And this other person said they should also deport their families back to Nigeria. And this person is the same Kwankwaso that many have been clamoring to be Obi's running mate. Let me clap for myself for unraveling this man in my head long before now. And another person, Kwankwaso, please retweet your PR. Time to join APC. Hey, does it mean that there isn't Muslim politicians who are actively supporting terrorism? Muslim politicians, does it mean there aren't Muslim politicians supporting? How does this stop them from their evil deeds? Kwankwaso, so he's just a disruptor. He knows he won't win election, but he's just there to disrupt Obi's vote. He will now come to APC and to be protected there, and even given a post. Bookmark this. So these are Nigerians reacting. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification for more. Now take a look.